Welcome back to Digital Tutors. In this lesson, we're going to talk about fine cutting our edit. In this case, we're going to fine cut our action edit because there's a couple of extra things that you can use in here than you would in the documentary, namely sound effects and that cheesy frame hold that we were talking about for the end of this guy. So let's take a look at this fine cut I've gone through. After doing the rough cut, I actually decided that I am just opening up with that shot of him, because I find that more interesting, where we again have a second of black just so we can see. Starting off on him, cool, go to that guy. Again, we're following a certain psychology. So we've gone through. Feel free to take a look at my fine cut as it is right now. I've already dropped in a bunch of different sound effects, so let's go ahead and talk about that really quickly. I have this folder that I've imported here that are sound effects. You have two different types of sound effects that you might be using in a finer cut. In this case, I didn't need to put any sounds in to actually be able to edit. Sometimes you need the sounds to be able to edit to this point, so it just depends on the footage and the project. But now I can add in all my sound effects. I've done some of them, and you can do the rest. So basically, if you open up this hits.mp3, it's just a series of ridiculous hit sounds. And so just like working with your music, all you have to do is arrow forward, find the sound. Let's go find a place to put this guy. I don't want to use that one. Let's go find a place to put this guy. It's going to seem a little out of place right here. We're going to do more stuff to this shot, but right where he hits, right there, make sure that you are affecting your audio, and then I can use my overwrite. So I can either click this and drag it down exactly to where I want it, in which case it'll overwrite it, or you can always mark it, press this button, or if you float over this button, it tells you overwrite is period. So it's good to kind of get used to being a two-handed editor, using your mouse to select things, and then using the quick key down here. Then I want to make it go to my A1. So I can just drag this guy. So I can just drag that guy down. There we go. So just make sure that your audios are aligned. You want your A1 to be here. You want your source to go to A1. So now what we can do is, again, get to that point. It's going to look silly, like I said. Override it. And there we go. Now the other thing that you want to do is make sure that your punches are all within that same -12 framework. That one is, because I've already mixed it, but that one that we just added down here, it's not. It's coming in pretty hot. So what we want to do is drag this guy down until he is not a crazy. It can be a little bit louder than perfectly -12, but we don't want it to be, going over this -6. So now, once you have this, you can either do that to all of them individually, or a nice trick is, after you put all your sound effects in there, click on it, copy it. So again, edit, copy, or Command or Control C. Then you can highlight the rest of them, rest of those sound effects on that line, right click, paste attributes, and it gives you all of these options. And we're not going to do any of the video, we're just going to do the volumes here. So if I press OK, now all of these are that same volume. So because you can look here, they are pretty much all that same volume except for these two slaps. That's a really good way to start off by mixing all of your audio. You might have to adjust a couple of them, but that way you don't have to do every single one individually to start off with. So you can go through and you can do all of that, lining up your sound effects. I'm going to let you have fun with that. The other type of sound effect we have is this park, and this is an ambient track. Oh, cute. So it's the same thing. We can override it, or we can just click and drag it down all the way at the beginning of our edit. And just a word of advice, in this one, I don't think there's a lot of sound effects, but if you were going to have multiple layers of sound effects, so two sound effects kind of happening where they overlap each other, I would put all of those on the first few tracks and then put in your ambient on another track so that you keep it organized. Here, we'll go ahead and make that smaller so it's a little easier to see. So that we could have these first two tracks as sound effects, and then you have your ambient track down here, which is, for some reason, ginormous. There we go. And then we have this fourth track for music. If you had multiple tracks of ambient, you could have tracks A3 and A4 both as ambients. It's really easy to add another track. You can always just right click and add a track and make it an audio track. So the way this is starting off right now, I'm going to drag that this way. We're going to use my pen tool, and we're going to do kind of an audio bridge. So our audio is going to kick in before our video. And I also want to put a transition here. I don't want a hard cut like I did on the dock, because that feels like a hard cut. So what I'm going to do instead is go to my effects. And you can either find effects here, or you can go to Window, Effects. And the ones that we're going to talk about primarily right now are transitions. We're not going to put a lot of effects on the video. So we'll do video transitions. In this case, I'm going to do a dissolve, cross dissolve it up, drag it on there. Cute. And so you can feel that even though there would be more sounds in here, which you can feel free to go and find those more sounds or record them yourselves and put them in there, footsteps, things of that nature, is just having this ambient track in the background, and it might need to be a little louder, kind of creates an atmosphere, and it helps to make you pay attention to the whole story as opposed to just the shots. Now, the other thing that we have here is our music. And again, remember, always turn it down. Pretty noisy. So, I'm going to bring that guy down into my 4 and figure out psychologically where you want that to start. In this case, I'm going to have it start right when he rushes forward. And again, we can pick a different spot. It doesn't have to be right there. It can be probably that one's a little bit more exciting. So we can do endpoint there. I can get rid of this. I can drag this down right where he starts. Rushing in. Again, make it a little bit quieter so it's not overloading our speakers. And we could ramp it up, or we could just do a hard cut, something like that if you want. There's all sorts of different options here. It's all up to you. Let's just see what that feels like. Good enough. And now that we've got this music track in here as well, you can see that you would probably have to do a few edits to that as well, just like we did with the documentary. Now, the last thing that I want to kind of talk about here, we've already done, I'll go ahead and mute it. We don't need this sound right now. Here's a technique that is used often in action editing. We have the slow motion, which we've already gone through. If you double click on it, you can always go to effect controls. I had to resize it to 150 because it was shot at 720. And so I want it to fill the screen, as you probably noticed before. So you can affect all of that stuff by just double clicking on a clip and going up to effect controls. So another thing that you end up doing here is taking this slow motion shot. So we can take this, and what a lot of people do is they cut out part of it. So we'll do fast motion to about here. So I'll do a cut, And then we'll do a cut right there. And we can modify the speed. So what I do is click on it, go to clip, speed duration. I'm going to do 250. Now, if this ripple isn't turned on, you'll see it leaves a hole. So what you usually want to do is actually turn on that ripple. And I'm going to go 250 again. And I'll do the same thing here. 250. Okay. And now we'll see how this seems a little bit more dynamic. Might need to do it even faster at the end. But you can see how we took this shot that was entirely in slow motion and you can make it a little bit more dynamic and really accentuate it. The other one at the end, pretty easy to do. We put in a frame hold here. And so the way that we did that, let me just show you real quick, is this is where I want my frame hold. I'm just going to cut that. So I can go here, clip, video options, add frame hold. Or you can right click on it and find it from there. And now from where that first clip is, boom, it's a frame hold that we could also do a nice little transition out of. So go through, do all of that, get your fine cut the way you want it, and then when you're ready, come on back for the next lesson.